So we'll start now.
Okay.
So let's start at the beginning and we'll work on doing proofs. Now the thing you need to do is to have the inference rules in front of you when you do proofs. So remember, here's one inference rule. And what this tells you is that when you have this and this, you can validly infer that. So remember, P and Q are variables, and any width whatsoever can be put in their places. So let's do a problem involving modus ponens. So suppose you're given two premises, and you want to show that this validly follows from these premises. You need to know which rule tells you that this follows from what you have. And this is the only rule that'll do it. Look, you've got a horseshoe, you've got the left-hand side of the horseshoe, and so modus ponens says when you have those two ingredients, you can infer the right-hand side of the horseshoe. And notice that's what you want to infer. That's the right-hand side of the horseshoe. So, and what this does is it tells us we got this from these premises by applying this rule. Because this rule says if I have these two things, I can infer that. And I have these two things, so I can infer that. So you need to look carefully at the rules, because they will tell you what you need in order to make an inference. Now, there are 8 rules that we worry about right now. So let's look at another problem. I'm going to erase this one. Okay, here we want to infer R from these premises. And notice we have a wedge. So modus ponens is not a rule that'll work. We want a rule that governs the wedge. Now look at your rules. You'll see that DS, disjunctive syllogism, is the wedge rule. And DS says you need 2 things. You need a wedge, R wedge, H dot K, and you need the negation or the opposite of one of the components. And if you have those 2 things, you can infer the other component. So this will be DS. Now, the next thing we're going to do is the most important proof for the course, because this is not going to be a one-step proof. This is a 2-step proof. And so you need to know very clearly how this works. So we want to infer this from these premises. Now, the first thing you should do is see if you can find squiggle T in your premises. You don't see squiggle T anywhere. However, do you see T? Yes, right here. T is where? On line 2, in a horseshoe on the left-hand side. As soon as you see that, you should start thinking modus tollens, which tells you how to infer the left-hand side of a horseshoe. Modus ponens tells you how to infer the right-hand side of a horseshoe. And when you do modus tollens, the left-hand side becomes squiggled. So modus tollens says you need a horseshoe, and what else? You need the opposite of the right-hand side. You need squiggle R. Do you see squiggle R in here? No, you don't. Which means you have to get it. Before you can do modus tollens to get squiggle T, you're going to have to get squiggle R. So I have a new problem. How do I get squiggle R? I don't see it anywhere. Do you see R other than on line 2? Yeah, here, line 1. In a what? A horseshoe. What side? The left. MT, MT, MT. R will turn into squiggle R when I do MT. What do I need to do MT? Two things. I need this horseshoe and the opposite of the right-hand side, which is squiggle S. So I have both of the ingredients I need to do MT to get squiggle R. Now that I have squiggle R, I can finish the problem. Because remember, I started trying to get squiggle T, and I knew I could only get it by MT. But MT tells me I needed two things, this horseshoe and squiggle R. And now I finally have it, so I can do MT again to get squiggle T, which is what I wanted to do. This is the most important part of doing proofs, because you have to first do something else, get squiggle R, in order to get what you wanted to get, squiggle T. If you understand how to do this proof, that will be the basis for all future work doing proofs. So it's essential you see how to do that.